And lastly, I don't think we've ever officially asked for permission to advertise for bids for the resurfacing projects on 1101-2262. Those are the two projects on your CPP for this year. So we're just asking for permission to advertise for bids on those whenever we're prepared to do so. And I believe that's all we have tonight.
Questions and comments for the engineer?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
County Road 7749 and 2256. Where we at on that now?
Still in the planning stages. I mean, we were awarded the grant, as you know, so we're just working on, we're trying to get the emergency bridge projects out for a letting, or, for bids first, and then that one will be next in line.
The other roads that were on the resurfacing list this year, similar fashion, trying to get those two issues done first.
Correct. Yeah, I think our priorities are the emergency bridge projects and
CDBG.
CDBG project. Of course, it does have a deadline, and then the other researching projects, after those.
Where I feel now, that's that CBG project. That thing been on this paper for 4 years almost. That should be top of the list to get, instead of dropping down here to level 1 and 2262.
Oh, it's ahead of those two. Yeah, that's what I meant by that. It is top priority among our researching projects. So it will be next in line.
Anybody else?
And Commissioner Wright, you've actually already approved everything for that block grant project, 7749. So that's why we're not asking you for anything on it tonight, because you've already given us permission to do everything we need to do on that one. So it's already in the works ahead of these two.
Commissioner Copeland?
Yeah, thank you for the updates on the bridges, because I was going to ask, I'm getting, especially with 6618 being closed, so keep us up to date on those. But the Tarentum project, I'm assuming that we're at the close, we're ready to get the paperwork in and get all that closed out. McKenzie, have y'all got together on getting the paperwork to get that closed out?
I'm sorry, I was talking to the paperwork on which.
The work at the Tarentum Community Center is complete.
Yes, we are working on, I think we've got one more thing, and I have been talking with, policing office or something. I don't know if it's the final approval or what it is, final, that it's done.
Yeah, that's what as long as y'all are communicating.
Yes, what it is, we're waiting on the cleared check. We have to send a copy of the cleared check. The
Okay.
check's been run, processed, signed, and mailed, and we're checking daily. But I've got the pictures and everything from y'all's office. I'm ready to send it in as soon as I have a copy of the cleared check. I've got everything in the folder ready to go as soon as the check clears up.
Final payment has been made.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. As long as y'all are communicating.
Yes, we've got, I've talked back and forth to make sure that is all that they need to go with the final paperwork.
That's right.
Anything else?
I got one.
Commissioner Barry?
On 7735, the pipe replacements, you got it, they completed it?
It is. It's complete, and it's passable. Of course, it's a little wet up there on that hill beyond it, so we'll have to get back in there when it dries out and
Okay,
grade the road again and get it dressed back up.
okay. I just received some calls on it. Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
I got one more.
Go ahead.
Timber cutters, are they notifying y'all that these go be using the county roads and stuff?
No, sir. You mean as a general rule?
Yeah.
I mean, unless there's some sort of permit required for an insurance or something like that. I mean, we don't have a notice ordinance or anything like
Nope.
that, so there would not be technically be a reason for them to, I guess.
The reason I
I
asked,
understand your question, right? I'm sorry.
the reason I asked it, it's a company cutting out there on, what's that, 7757? On Brown Mill Creek Road.
Down Mill Creek.
Right.
And they didn't have no signs out. They was coming out right at the top of a hill and around the curve, and the driver was sitting there beside the road one day, and I told him, I said, man, y'all need to get some signs out on this road here before somebody get killed. So they went on and got them out. And then they started cutting down there by our house, and done tore the road up. It was just, I got on them about that. They did put some gravel and dirt on it, but I don't think we'll ever stand up till we do something else about it. That's the same road I was telling you about that the water was jumping and running down the road.
Right.
So we got a lot of county roads that's been broke off on the sides, you know, with trucks running over the potholes and stuff now. I know they got to make money, but we got, it costing us money too.
We'll look into that. We'll go
Yes,
check
we
on it. I
will.
was not aware that there was an issue.
We're tired riding your district.
Anybody else?
I have just one thing.
Go ahead.
Wait on that.
It's more of a comment than it is a question. I didn't know if you were aware, but I've heard this more than once and actually have evidence. I know we're spending a lot of money trying to get these dirt roads up to par, but some of the roads, I've been informed that they're using their dirt bikes, four-wheelers. I don't know if you are aware of that. And they're using them to practice for the dirt bike, four-wheeler contest in other counties. But I do know that they're doing that, and they're messing up these dirt roads once you fix them. So I don't know if this is policing, or if this is something that I need to bring to your attention so you would know, because once they've been fixed, if you see all the tracks, that's what's going on with some of these dirt roads.
It's a constant battle, that and mud riders.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Four-wheel drive.
yes.
It's a law enforcement issue.
Okay,
And, there's, some of those guys have been caught. So, I'd say to anybody that's doing that, I've seen people have to reimburse us a significant amount of money to repair the damages, when they were caught, so.
well, that's what I want to know. Okay,
The sheriff's department has, in my district, a few places that were prominent, has got some cameras they put out to be able to catch. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but they're equipped if you'll call the sheriff.
okay, that's exactly what I wanted to know about. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, Ross. EMA? Mr. Hurd?
I don't have any items for action tonight, just more or less just some information items. I brought tonight a copy of the Senate Bill 43 that passed in the packet or everybody on the desk. This is in reference to the State Replace Act. This passed where the state EMA is going to be required to put together some standards for us establishing additional safe places for people during severe weather. As we all know, today is the 10th anniversary of tornadoes in Tuscaloosa and all the deaths up there. And so the legislature has put together this act, and they've got to put together between now and the end of the year. And then we've got to take and try to get facilities to open up their doors for safer places. So there'll be more to follow. I think this has been passed and now is law. We've got to look at any questions.
This is that bill I was talking about last meeting.
The only other thing, two things. One, COVID vaccines have slowed down to a crawl. National Guard will be back here on Thursday to do the second doses for those that we did about 4 weeks ago. About 440 there. We continue to try to do more. We are working with the local health authorities, hospital, fire departments. Try to start taking the vaccine to people versus trying to get them to come to us. So we're going to be identifying industries, housing areas, heavy populated areas, so we can try to get this vaccine out. We still have a considerable amount of vaccines, so supplies are not the issue anymore. It's people that, give people to take the vaccine. So we'll just continue to work on that. And if we get new people vaccinated, if not. Does anybody ever need to get vaccinated?
I'm doing,
I have mine.
Second one's tomorrow.
Can I give it?
Miss Jackie's gonna give me mine. Sorry.
And then lastly, and this is gonna be a slow roll, with FEMA, with all, they just declared another, disaster area north of us, from the storm we had in March, and we're waiting on FEMA with our hazard mitigation funds, but based on talking to everybody, it's just rolling extremely slow, so it may be several weeks before we get back on our hazard mitigation fund.
we're used to that with them, unfortunately.
That's all I have before, questions?
On the trailer that the Pike, the volunteer fires, what do we need to do to work with you to
We just
move
need to
that?
decide what we're gonna put in it, and, the trailer's ready, and then if there's anything they wanna put on the outside, we wanna get it lettered or striped or anything like that.
Now, was it, my understanding there was gonna be a generator and some lights in it already?
There's a small portable generator, and,
Okay.
it's one that we, got some time ago from, Homeland Security, we got a couple of those. We'll put one of those in as well as those lights and whatever other equipment they want to put in there.
What's the dimensions of it?
It's a 16-foot trailer.
16 feet long.
I'm sorry, it's an enclosed door trailer with two doors on the back and side door.
Engineer, Oliver, how long are the, do some pondering on it, because we talked about maybe helping come up with some barricades, some extra barricades to put in something like that. If it would be better if it were cones or barrels or the long ones that you could take down, and I guess my question is, would the long ones that have the stand on each end, would they fit in the arms fit inside a 16-foot trailer? So we could figure out.
Well, I don't know what Russell has, but they make some 4-foot road closed signs, but,
Okay.
I don't know, my opinion would be the barrels with the heavy rubber piece on the bottom of them.
Would be better.
Hard to move, the wind won't blow them as much, but you put the barricade up, and, if the officer's just not, you gotta put sandbags on them. to keep
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
The barrel's got the
In
weights.
certain situations, you have to use the barricades,
Yeah.
that's what's called for, by the EUTCD, but, yeah, that's been on the trailer. We've got a trailer with some on it now.
Okay.
and we've got money, if we get our hazard mitigation money, we've got money set aside in there to buy additional barricade barrels and whatever else that would be used as for the road department.
Okay.
Mr. Copeland, you have something?
I did, but I forgot. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Me and Mr. Earp had this conversation earlier. As obviously we've got one location for our storm shelters, but we've got to be coming up with community groups that can man those. And we asked for y'all to send us the agreement at the last meeting, and y'all did that. So we should all have it in our email, kind of it's not the agreement. It's the operations agreement, right? Mr. Urban can explain that better than me. This is basically what we expect for the communities to be able to.
We really just need to go back and take that operations agreement, put a letter of, memorandum of understanding or agreement in there that, like the Midfield Fire Department will do such and such, comply with those operating standards and open that shelter when it needs to be open. And that's what we need to have for any site going forward. We'll have operations manual, we need to have that agreement between the commission and that entity that they will fulfill those obligations. But we have, if all goes well, we'll have 2 additional shelters that we've got to find places.
Great.
I'm trying to work on one.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to work on one.
She's trying to work on a spot
Oh.
in a community group to
And there's
run.
also,
Yeah.
just so you know this, and then I'll step down. Included in that, there's 15 slots for individual family shelters. But now those families or individuals have to come up with 25% match. We have 4 people so far that have signed up just by word of mouth. And all I was telling Commissioner Copeland, all those are out in the Banks community. So when we get ready to, and know what we got to work with, we'll begin, advertising that, and people can sign up for that. It's 15 is what we would cap that at. And these are both ground and underground shelters, depending on what people want.
So, question that just came up as I was thinking about what we were just talking about. So, like, and I guess I'm making a statement, asking a question all at the same time. So we got this bill, and I read through it briefly when it first hit the floor, but I don't remember. So places like, obviously Troy, we don't want to put a community shelter there. There's plenty of places that, people can go get. I'm assuming this is going to open us up to more places that,
It will.
I know from experience, we had to spend, at our church, we had to spend like $50,000 or $60,000 to get certified, and because of the certification, we quit doing it, which is kind of, maybe bad to say, but we had to put in showers, put in a pumping station, all kind of things. I'm assuming this bill is going to take away that problem. Is that one of the main things it's going to do?
It should, but now, if you read in there, the facility is not responsible for any of those costs. So they're not responsible for providing food, water, or anything else during the time. It is basically what they're trying to do is to get a facility where people can get in, weather the storm, and then get out. It doesn't provide for long-term care of people. Also, it's an agency that are willing to volunteer, churches, community centers, whatever, that are volunteering there. So there's no reimbursement or anything.
Right.
It has protections from liability.
Right.
That's what I want.
Yep.
So you don't have to go get certified from some group so that you take the liability off your organization.
This committee from the state EMA will develop these, the plans and the regulations and things, and then we have to take that. We have to solicit, for volunteer areas or volunteer facilities, and we've got to go out and see that, check the facilities, make sure it meets the minimum standards. Now, it's not going to meet the same standards that, we've invested in Meadsville or, any other, true storm shelter, but it may be better than where they're living there now, to get out of the weather and things like that.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
I need a question. Got one. Is it possible that our local EMA and county commissions can meet with everybody in Pike County, not at one time, but to see where it's needed most? There's a lot of population of folks that can't come to ends of the road and places like that, different churches. They won't have that kind of time. It has a certain location like, what's that? Out of Banks there, over there.
Across the Byrod?
No, going to Foxwood Road up there. Different places like that, Shellhorn and all in them areas of the ocean. We need about 4 or 5 large buildings somewhere. Because now a lot of folks who want to.
Identify those, or try to identify some ahead of time, and then ask representatives from those facilities to come to a meeting and see how many are willing to do that and explain to them what their responsibility is. The main responsibility is to open the facility and making sure, the facilities are open and ready to protect people. And they don't let anybody and everybody come to the facility just because you don't live in Banks or Brundage. If you want to go to the shelter in Spring Hill, you can go to the shelter in Spring Hill. You can't discriminate, in any shape, form, or fashion in regard to the shelter. If you're going to volunteer a shelter, it's open to anybody who wants to come to the shelter. I guess we've seen people passing through the calling line. We do occasionally get people say, with their shelter, we're not going to travel any further, so occasionally you have people like that. I know we've had some city reps on this.
Anything else?
Just one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
In my efforts of trying to get a place, one question that was asked of me, I'm like, wow, that's a good one. Once we reach the capacity for the trailer, if you have more people, I was asked, what happened to those people? Do you just turn them around or what? Is it a first come, first served basis?
First serve,
Okay.
The capacity of most of these shelters, we're, like Meadsville and these others,
Okay.
So I don't think we're getting capacity in Meadsville yet, but we're, at any point in time, we could have people in there So, I think what happens is these shelters and plus these safer places that we're trying to identify gives us, plenty of places that we can refer people to. And get them from that shelter, it's pretty much first come, first served.
And that's what I was about to add, is that, some more populated places where you think you would hit that capacity, just say Brundage, if there's one in Brundage. You almost have to designate where's that fallback, because you don't want to send somebody home that shows up at that door. You got to have
Exactly.
somewhere else to send them. And the hardest part, Mr. Homer, is I think in some of these communities, because we need them in several communities, but if there's no organization in that community that's willing to operate it, our hands are tied.
Yep.
Take my community, just say we're close enough to Brundage, we could probably get there, but if we weren't, it'd almost have to be a family that operated out there, because there's no community group that's established in that community that I can think of that would operate it. So that's the hard part to me, is finding that community group to operate it. Open it up, make sure it's stocked, make sure it's clean, those kind of things.
Is
It's
that,
different than, like a designated Red Cross shelter, or Red Cross provides support. This is a safe place to get to, weather the storm, and then, it's not a means for a longer term, Red Cross type shelter where people in this place. It can be, but that's not the intent of this position.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Eric. Alvin, anything from the attorney today?
No report, no.
Okay, does any commissioner have a report? Nothing? Okay.
I'd like to ask the attorney, just an update on the board education property and the DA building work that we were working on. If y'all were able to ascertain everything y'all needed on the county road, is that?
I've got, yeah, I think we can say we've got everything we need, and I need to now get back with Dr. Gazelle and try to tie that down like we've discussed, but I think the only remaining issue, Russell, was what we emailed about last week, and it's just kind of hot off the press.
Yes, sir.
Was, do we put another sign up there and designate it as a true county road, which is what we want it to be, but if you do that, then you
Can't secure.
You can't stop public traffic from going down in there and just whatever, so we don't want that. So I think that was your conclusion as well, is it's best to leave it as is, but it is designated officially in the engineer's office as a county road. It just hasn't been vacated. So under the law, it will remain a county road until we vacate it, which we don't intend on doing, particularly now that we own the property that it accesses, so.
I'm just
It
going.
just took us a little back and forth.
Working
to
that
get
out.
this.
I've just been asked to come to Meatsville meeting Thursday night to talk about, hear them out on where they are on their truck that they wanted to put in shelter, and hear them out on their plans and try to get a game plan. I've had a small group of people that have been out in that Shellhorn area trying to get some pre-commitments from people, what they'd be willing to donate to help get the building up. And I just knew when I got there Thursday night, that'd be something they'd ask me.
Well, I would say, Commissioner, that,
I kind of got
the
a
end of
problem.
this week or next week, we could have, I'm gonna talk to Dr. Gazelle and tell him we've resolved the question, because he, as he said, he thought there was an easement. I mean,
Yes, sir.
they just didn't know.
Yes, sir.
And, so through the research, did a title search, as you know, and went ahead and did a full-blown title opinion on it. That's what we've uncovered, is lo and behold, it's a county unvacated road, meaning it's still a road we control. which is good.
Did you have, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
I kinda got a problem with that. I hear y'all talking about y'all done email, we don't get the first email. This is supposed to be a county thing, now this is supposed to be a group. If whatever email come from you, we need to get it, and they need to get it, everybody else, especially the county commission. But then we get to the meeting, that's when you bring it out. So we need to start to communicate email or telephone or whatever, so everybody know what's going on.
Well, that's fine.
To clarify now, the emails
There
y'all
might have
just,
been 20 emails between us, or however many it is.
It don't
I'd
matter.
Send all those out, but what we were doing, what I do, and have done for 30+ years, is we research it, if there's a research, and then, as you know, Commissioner Wright, then I'll bring to you the answer to whatever question, but, the reason you haven't gotten an email from me or the engineer yet is that final answer really is still to be determined, was to be determined, now that we know. We didn't know until last week that, I would say for sure, would you agree with me, Russell, that maybe a week before last, it was in the last email or two, that we were looking at do we or do we not vacate it or leave it open? If you leave it open, do we put a sign up that better defines it as a county road? And then if you do that, then how do you put a gate across it to secure it for the
Sheriff and fire.
the sheriff's department? I mean, we had to go through all those steps, and I mean, it's fine. And most times on emails that relate to a lot of the issues, y'all all get a group copy from me on things that I think are worthy of your time to read while we're looking at it. But I mean, I can send you a lot more than you want to read, probably, if that's what you want us to do.
No,
I mean that sincerely. I don't want to send things to you that aren't really ready for, would be a waste of time that's just being investigated and whatnot.
And I'll clarify, Commissioner, Wright, and to the rest of them. Mr. Allen just asked me, since it was in my district, and I knew the adjoining owner, would I mind riding out and asking him, because that property has a road going down to it.
Yep.
And Mr. Robin, because he used to live out there, knows what I'm talking about. And when I went and talked to the gentleman, because I've known him, I mean, his son went from preschool through graduating high school with me, to the man and asked him, what is your knowledge of how this road, was it an easement on your property, or what was it? And he said, no, it was a county road, and when I was a child, it used to go past the school, and there was a railroad crossing, and it went over to the next dirt road, and back in the 50s or 60s, the railroad closed the crossing, and then when the school closed, the sheriff's department started, and I had just relayed back to Mr. Allen what he'd asked me to go fact find for him from that man out in my community, and I was just
And then
asking.
I got the engineers to double check, what does this map show? And we frankly, we're still in the process of trying to reach what's the best alternative. As we go back to Dr. Bazell and,
Mr. Allen just emailed me back and said, hey, Oliver did, what the man told you was correct, and years ago it was county road number so-and-so, and I was just curious. I wasn't
that's
trying
really
to.
all it's
the only thing I'm talking about is, you two be talking and done come to a slight agreement, and then you go bring it to the board and want us to suspend the rules and vote on it. And we don't know when the heck what are we doing?
We voted
In a
on it a
sense.
month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, bits and pieces, not to the whole thing, cause nothing's supposed to go on in this building here. About every commissioner around here know something about it, not special groups.
Well, you know. I
Violating
agree with
ethics
that.
law right there.
I've been approaching it for 32 years, to be honest. Is you keeping you informed. I'm not gonna ever not keep you informed and communicate, stay in communication. This incident here, or this topic here, required a title search in the courthouse, just had all these other things that had to come together from different sources to even come to y'all as a group. And I'm still, but as far as the issue of deciding to swap the DA, to lease the DA building to the county, to the Board of Education in exchange for this piece of land, which y'all had engineer Russell go check it for clay dirt. I don't even remember when that was, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, when y'all did boring tests and saw whether it was a decent piece of property or not to exchange the DA building for. Now remember, we're retaining ownership. You're just gonna pay the insurance and upkeep in exchange for the Board of Education giving you free that 8 acres out there. And as I recall, that's been approved, that was approved a long time ago.
Yeah.
Unless I'm right, may stand corrected.
No, it
Yeah,
has been.
it's been approved.
So this was just follow-up to get some more information on that owner and stuff. But I hear you. You don't have to worry about me not letting you know what you gotta know.
There's other stuff we need to talk about too,
We'll
right
turn
now.
it up if you, I'll send more along the way.
Commissioner Copeland's got a legislative update. I'm gonna ask him to hold that to the regular meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to make a comment on this conversation too, though.
All right.
Well, and really quick, just for clarification, so I understand what we're talking about, that, but and anything that we're gonna vote on, anything that, we're to the point that it's time for us to debate, I'm in 1,000% agreement. Everybody needs to know about it, needs to have time to research it, form an opinion.
That's right.
And I agree wholeheartedly. Sometimes we have to have, for instance, like we're talking about these storm shelters. So there may be one of us, there may be two of us, there may be, that are trying to work with a group to get it to a point where we can bring it to everybody. So, just because there's things going on that everybody doesn't know about, doesn't necessarily mean that we're trying to do something covert or, and I just don't want to leave this where we are, like everybody's going behind everybody's backs, because to develop a plan to bring to the commission, you can't brief the commission at every step along the way. You got to get it to a point where you can make a presentation about it. Now, and I also inversely don't want to seem like we want to kind of blindside anybody either, because I don't. But it's got to be said during this conversation too, is that there has to be some background done. There's a lot of times we've got to go to Allen, and when I go to Mr. Allen or Russell or McKenzie about plans I'm trying to develop, I don't expect them to send something out to the entire commission. I expect them to honor what I'm asking them to do and help me research something until we get it to that point. And I would hope everybody up here would do the same thing, not put them in a position to ask them withhold things that don't need to be withheld. But we got to be able to work. We got to be able to do our job without, and I hope that any of you guys that think I'm doing that would call me on the telephone and say, hey, I think you're doing this, and I will be glad to explain what I'm trying to do. But we can't have the mindset, and I hope I'm misinterpreting this, but we can't have the mindset that every time a commissioner is working on something, they've got to call 6 or 5 other commissioners and brief them at every little step. That's not realistic if we're doing our jobs. And anyways, sorry, I wanted to get that out.
Anybody else?
And I think that's what Commissioner Wright was talking about.
I think so too.
I think so.
That wasn't
It's
aimed, I
not a
just,
conflict at all, I think that's exactly what.
I
I'm
agree.
just saying, when it's time for something, keep me in the loop, and I'm not aware that we haven't, and we won't. This was just follow up on something that had already been approved. So, you don't have anything to worry about, from me, I promise.
Yeah, see. I'm gonna ask the administrator to wait to the regular meeting too, it's 6:05, so we're gonna take a 5-minute potty break and come back for the regular meeting. And the work session is now closed.